Groove Builders, welcome to the workbench. We have our Metal Earth DeLorean with a really cool special brush stainless steel body. I think this is going to look really neat when we're done, and I'm really excited to open it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back. On the back, we get a difficulty rating here of about a medium, and then just below we have some instructions on how to build our model. Then, on the left here, we have a QR code which we can scan to get a 360 view of our build while we're building. This comes in handy when we're putting little bits of detail onto our model. Then on the right here, we have the history of the DeLorean, and finally at the bottom we get a look at some other models that Metal Earth offers. And you better believe that we're going to be building every one of these in a future episode. Look at that monster truck. Group Builders, let's go ahead and open up our package. We have our instructions, and we have our metal, which is 2 1/4 sheet. Actually more of a half sheet. But look at all these parts. Alright Groovers, let's get all of our pieces out and get building. Okay, the cutters go away, the tweezers are now out, and we can begin building our DeLorean. Now this starts on page 2, and the first thing we're going to be doing is grabbing part 1 here and bending it right at the middle. Now it's very important that we understand that this is the engraved part right here, the painted part, this piece right here, not the back end, this end right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the piece like this, and then grab it like this. It's about a 90-degree bend, it looks like. And there we go. That is our first piece all bent. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is bending 2 cylinders. So the cylinders, we're going to use a mandrel like this to be able to get these shaped properly. Now let's grab it. Again, making sure that we form these correctly. The painted side is the one we want to see. And I always start big and then work my way small. Just like that. The reason why I do that is because I want every piece of the metal here to be bent. If you get any little part that isn't bent, you won't have a perfect cylinder, and you really do want this build to look nice. So put your best foot forward by just putting a little bit of practice into it. There we go. And there's our first cylinder. Now I'm not going to cap it just yet until we have it in place. I'm going to do the same thing with this other part number 2. There we go. All right, now our parts are formed. We can put them on to the DeLorean. And grab a little piece here. Now these go right here at the front, so we're gonna grab them and put them into place. And that's why I didn't cap them just yet, because it makes it a little easier to be able to hold them and put them into place if they're not capped. Twist. Awesome. Okay. I don't like how much it's moving. That was not a good securement. I'll explain why that didn't secure well in a moment too. You see, it's very important to make sure that you're putting pressure on both sides when you're putting parts in. And if you don't put a lot of pressure and really push on both sides, you won't get a good connection. This is a tab bending tool. Very useful, also very cheap online, you can find them. But shipping might take a long time, especially with the current state of things. There we go. I want that museum quality, so I'm just going around and I'm pushing the metal here in. I'm using the top little cap there to kind of guide me in how I need to do this. I always start with the back piece where the metal is actually connected to the cylinder. If you start where the metal isn't connected, you might actually warp your cylinder more than you want to. So start where the metal connects here at the back and work your way around. I like how that looks. Let's move on to our next step, which is adding part 3 here on the front. Part 3 is a pretty simple bend, pretty simple piece here to shape. All we want to do is just make sure that all of the sides match. So we're going to bend this side here. Again, making sure those edges right in the corner are really nice and lined up like that. This piece might be hard to see on camera. It's black, and I'm wearing black gloves. All right, and now you'll notice I left that last little piece here, that little tiny piece for last. And the reason I did that is because that can be a real pain if you do it first. It can get in the way of the other pieces, and it just really looks nice now, all closed up. Look at that, cool. A little bit of detail going on the front as well. This goes on the left side here. There we go. Awesome, looks really cool. Okay, now the next piece here, we need to actually bend these down. So we're gonna grab the center right here, and this might be hard to do. Let me see. I have these bigger tweezers here that might be better. I'm grabbing in the middle because the middle has a connection point there, and that actually worked really well. There we go. I'm just bringing it down. There's our first one. The second one here should be a lot easier to do. There we go. Now we're going to grab our piece here. Now it's very important that we make sure that the brush steel side here is going down when we're doing this. And this piece here is secured by bending the tabs over. So I'm going to start that with my tab bending tool. And I'm going to do the other side too. Okay. Now that did not work out the way I wanted it to. I'm going to straighten that up. I think that's going to happen with a lot of people right there. It's just because of how flimsy this metal piece is here. These two pieces on either side are pretty small, so it's very easy to accidentally get them kind of warped. So I think a lot of people will do what I just did. You can fix it, especially if you have detail tweezers like this. This will be able to get right in there and just straighten that out. Boom. All right, I like that. Let's move on to our next piece, which is part number 5. Part number 5, it looks like it's pretty simple to attach. All we're going to be doing is just taking this little piece here and then putting it down, just like that. Then what we're going to be doing with our parts here is bending this down. Whoa. Always hard to grab these little bits of detail without warping everything. There we go. And you'll notice that this piece right here on either side gets bent up. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab these now too. Just making sure we grab both of them at the same place. I don't want to warp anything. I really want them to bend pretty much at the same time. A little line there. I'm going to try to get right to that fold line as close as I possibly can. I'm going to start on this side and start that bend. Same thing on this side. I need to try to get as close as I can. And we'll straighten everything out here. Once everything gets connected, it will look a lot better. Now with this done, we can go ahead and attach the back piece here. And this is just done like this. And these are twisted into place, so what I'm going to do is use my tab bending tool here to twist them into place. I'm going to twist them opposite directions. That's just to really make sure that that's secured on correctly, and that's really well done. And now that we got this assembled, we can put this down and start working on part 6 here. This is part 6. What we're going to do is orientate it to what we see in the instructions just to make everything a little bit easier for us. And our first step is taking this right here, is bending that down, making that almost level. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a 90-degree bend here. This gets bent ever so slightly, so what I'm going to do is kind of start that process right now, just ever so slightly, like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it into place, just like that, and trying my best to match up the seam. Now you can use the seam here to help you get the proper shape, which I really do recommend. Just be careful because you're shaping right next to this little fold line, and if you're not careful, I can see this snapping very easily. I already feel like this metal is a little bit more brittle than normal, which is weird because typically Metal Earth metal is really good. Now our next step is putting part 7 on. So we're gonna grab part 7. Part 7 is formed pretty easily. It's just matching up the edges. A lot of box forming here. Again, just trying to match our edges. You'll know if you've bent far enough if the edges line up. There's our shape. Come on now, there we go. on there really well. Just straighten out that detail, that's all we need to do. And now what we're going to do is add part 8, which goes on the bottom side of this. Part 8 is formed a little bit differently than we've done the other ones. This one here, you're actually forming kind of inside out in comparison to the last one. I'll show you what I mean by that. We're going to take each side here and bend it up. Just like that. Boom. And again, same thing applies from the previous pieces. You want to match all those seams on the side. If they don't match up, you got the part not properly formed. Now, you'll have this shape right here, and what we're going to do is just kind of take these tabs and bend them up ever so slightly. One a little bit more than the other, just to make it easy for us to be able to put this in. So you have something that looks like that. See? Focus. Focus. There we go. Looks like that. All right, now let's add this onto our car. Now, yes, I did push those down. I think it looks better pushed down that way. The tabs are white, so it should blend in pretty good. Okay, now with that little bit of detail added on, we can take this top piece here and very carefully bend it down and attach it together. Now this is just bent down, so like that. Okay, there we go. I think we have our center console here all finished up and looking nice. Now we need to add it on to our main car parts. So we're going to take this right here and we're going to flip it over to the non-engraved side. And now what we're going to try to do is attach it on. This will be interesting. The pointy side goes here. Be very careful to try not to scratch the surface. It might be a little hard to do with this piece here. All right, we're 100% in, and now we got to fold these tabs over. Let's see if we can do that here. Well, some of these will be a little easier than others, I think. I hate that they look like that. I wish they were almost painted black at the bottom so they wouldn't stand out. Okay, now these tabs here are too close to the edge, so I'm actually going to twist them for now, and later when we come back and add the next piece on, what I'm going to do is bend them over. I just don't want them getting in the way of those two insertion holes. Let's move on to our next piece, which is part 9, and we're adding a whole bunch of detail onto that. Now you'll notice that part 10 is a small little square. Now it's very important to bend all of these pieces over and again match the sides, so we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you one and then I'll fast forward to where they're all done for you. Don't need to watch repeated detail, that's just boring. Alright, and what I'm going to do too is I'm going to cut this like that. Neat. That's our first one done. Yeah, it's really tiny. It is tiny. I mean, like, that is tiny. But we're going to do a couple more and we'll move on. Now that we have all of those little squares actually bent out over here, we're going to go and attach them on piece by piece, making sure that we're attaching them to the grave side of part number 9. What's really important to remember here is it's going to get very difficult for us to be able to attach all of these pieces just because they're all so close together. So make sure that when you're attaching them, you bend the tabs away from the next one you're attaching. Now, as you saw, I kept all of my tabs away from each other, and that makes it a lot easier for me to be able to get them into their places. Sometimes, if we attach tabs and we don't look about where the future tabs are going to be going, you can actually block yourself and make it very difficult to get everything attached together. Looking ahead in the instructions does definitely help, so just keep that in mind. Alright, there we go. Now, part number 9 here has all of our pieces attached. I am going to straighten it out just a little, like that. Boom, good. I like it. Now we can go ahead and maybe attach it onto things. But first we have to bend the front up, like that, and then bend the tabs out. of course, making sure that we're grabbing the fold line. Nothing more. Nothing more. Interesting. That tab looks a little longer than this one, and I didn't bend it in any different way. Very, very interesting. Okay, now we can move on by adding this onto our DeLoreano. Like... I don't know why that's like that, but hey, I mean, right on. There we go. We've added our little bit of detail on, and it's there, looking nice. Now we need to put part 11 into play, which is this piece right here. This looks really cool, doesn't it? But what we need to do is actually take all of our tabs and bend them down. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. I'm assuming this is the actual undercarriage of the DeLorean just by all the pieces and detail that's on it. Looking really neat too. Also, like always, it's very important to make sure that we're putting the engraved pieces down. If you haven't noticed, one side is completely colored in paint, like this, and the other side doesn't have that at all. This is the engraved side, this is the non-engraved side. Because this metal is so thin, you might accidentally bend pieces here at the front unintentionally. Don't worry, it happens to everybody once in a while. You can actually hold the bigger part and just move the top. You'll be fine. You won't warp anything. I just made that mistake. Normally, I know better. This metal seems really thin in comparison to other ones. It's really, it might just be my imagination, but it really does seem thin. I'm going to use 2 tweezers here just because this tab does not want to bend. And I don't want to warp the metal, so that's how you get around that. Alright, I think for the most part we have all the tabs bent that we need to. I might have 1 or 2 in the future. I might need to go back and bend a little bit more, but for right now these look fine. Let's move on to, I guess, part 12 and add it on to the back here. It's like a little grill. Looks just like that. And with this piece here, what we're going to do is we're going to bend all of these pieces down like this. And of course, again, we're going to match all of our edges. You'll notice that the front and back here have little squares on the side. Those are beveled edges, so you just kind of roll them like that. Same thing right here. Kind of a rolling action will kind of help you roll it into place. That one's being a little stubborn. There we go. All right, now we can put this onto our part number 11 here. All right, so this is done in a cascading kind of structure, I guess. I'm gonna do a rough kind of guess about how it wants me to do this, but I'm basically following the fold lines. And so I think I did that correctly. It's basically like a staircase, it looks like, so, but just like on a triangle. So I'm gonna do it again and hope that I'm doing this correctly. I'm sure that we will have to come back and form this. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. And of course, with that being complete, we need more parts. Okay, and there's all of our pieces needed for the second page of building, or the third page of instructions. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is grabbing part 13 here, and of course, forming it with all of the non-engraved pieces on the inside. Let me show you what I mean by that. The engraved pieces are going to be on the outside here. See what I'm doing? Just like that. Bring everything up. Be careful here. Again, this metal seems to be a lot more fragile than normal, so you can't really be forceful with the pieces as you would normally could be. Normally, I would suggest forming these pieces first and then doing that. What I did there was not a good move. It's really hard to get a good shaping when you do it that way. You really need to bend the tabs. Okay, and there is part 13, all nice and shaped. Let's put on the 14. The same kind of thing as we did before. We're going to be bending all of the edges and matching all of the sidelines. Let's get started with this piece right here. Okay, and there is part 14, all nice and shaped. We're going to put it onto the body now, which it's not really the main body, it's this little undercarriage piece here. Let's start with part 13 first. This goes underneath. And with this last little tab here folded over, we have this pretty much complete. We just need to bend this little tab here at the front down, just like this. Same thing with this other side here. Awesome. Okay, now we can attach it onto the lower body. Now all of these tabs are bent. I think that the thing to do here will be to temporarily secure the tabs at the front and then work my way back. If I can hold on to the pieces, I'm having a really hard time lately doing this. All right, there we go. Let's take our old school tweezers here. Okay, there we go. Now that will hold it in place and allow me to get the other tabs where I need to get them. Now this will be a little bit more difficult than the last couple of pieces that we've done, and the reason for that is because of these tabs and where they are. You are going to have to move this around a little bit to get it to go into its place, and you might have to bend the metal just a little bit to get everything to fit, but once you do, you'll find everything falling right into place. Just going to work these tabs in one at a time. Cool. Oh, that one's gonna be a little bit of a tricky one to get, but I have tweezers that can reach that far and get it for me. This is definitely a pain in the butt to get these two tabs here in the center. You definitely have to work the pieces in. I can get the two pieces here like that. See, that's easy. But the ones in the middle seem to be hard. I'm actually going to even try to go ahead and secure these ones in place, because why not? Okay, there we go. These two little tabs here in the center are better to be folded when you're doing yours. Just make sure you do that. Actually, putting the tabs into place here was kind of difficult, but we're okay. I think it looks okay right now. I might go back later and fold those over just to tie it, make it look a little bit better. But for right now, I'm going to move on to our next step, which is making all of our wheels. Let me put this down here. And for this, I'm going to use something that I like to call my dapping set. Now, I know we're not making necessarily kind of doming shapes, but I'm going to use this nice cylinder here to be able to get a good shaped wheel, if you will. All right, let's get started here by grabbing part 15, this guy right here. And we're going to grab these inside tabs and bend them down. Now, this is a little bit of overkill. I'm going to use something a little bit smaller. There we go. There's our first piece. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy right here and we're going to attach her on. Now depending on how you shape this, it might be a little difficult to get all of these on the first time. Just make sure you have your tweezers around here and you can help guide the tabs into their insertion holes. Just like that. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Awesome. I'm not going to get in the way of that insertion hole. That's good. Bam. And bam. Awesome. That's what she looks like. Pretty cool. Now let's do this 2 times. We're going to do it one more time right here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. There's our part 1 and 2 done here of the wheels. Now we need to move on to the next set of wheels, which are different. So it's very important to make sure that these are kept separate. I'm calling this 1. These are going to be 2. Let's move on to this piece. These are formed exactly the same way. Did that one a little bit differently, but there we go. Our wheel is nice and formed. Let's put that down right here. And our next step is attaching this onto our lovely little chassis that we got going on here. Look at that undercarriage. I'm not too sure. I'm not really much of a car guy, although I do love the DeLorean. Let's go ahead and start putting pieces on here. Now these are my green pieces and these are my yellow pieces. Yellow pieces go on the back and the green pieces go on the front if you're looking at the instructions. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the front piece here first and start there. All these tabs here are bent in, really giving it a lot of pressure when you're securing these tabs. It'll be interesting to see if these get in the way or not. I'm hoping they're not going to. There's our first one on. Let's get this guy on here. Whew, that one went on way easier than the last one did, that's for sure. Oh, almost went the wrong way. Okay, I think that is now everything connected the best it can be. It's not easy getting everything in place, and some of this lower body detail is something that I want to improve a little bit before I go too much further. But I'm going to go ahead and start with part 19 here, which is the next part of our wheel assembly. And you'll notice that these actually aren't really kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, cones? They're more of like a rounded shape. So what I'm going to do is go around my entire part and do little tiny bends. And what that will do is create a nice little cone shape. But I have to be consistent with my bends as I go around. And of course, I want to match up that little seam there. So I'll do that again. Okay, so now with this shape being complete, we need to move on to my next side here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the tabs on the inside. And we're going to bend them like that. Okay, now we put the hubcap on the inside. This will be fun. Okay, might need to use my detail tweezers again here to get these guys in. Okay, I think it's supposed to actually be the other way. That's why I'm having such a hard time getting my hubcap in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo it. See, even I can make mistakes sometimes. I'm going to undo that. There we go. And we're going to reshape it. This time going the opposite direction. So again, I'm going to do this, just going all the way around. There we go. Try that again. Be kind. That is a little annoying. It didn't hold its shape very well, and you can form it when it's in shape here, but it's just something that I personally don't like. Anyway, we got the first part done here. Let's move on to actually shaping the wheel side. Once I do one wheel, it's pretty much the same thing for the other ones, so I'm just going to fast forward to where they're already completed. It's here. Now, I really enjoy rolling my pieces like this. And the reason why I do that is because it makes them really consistent and every piece of the metal actually gets bent, so that when I go to form it like this, it actually forms a lot easier and you don't develop any of those little silly hot spots, which can really destroy your model if you're looking for something nice, right? Okay. Now, here is a technique that will help you with pretty much every cylinder you make. If you bend this tab flush, you get to get right flush, just like this, and then take this right here and slowly, you have to bend this over just a little bit too, just because what we're going to do is we're going to create a lock. Now, it's not going to be the best cylinder right away because that was kind of a harsh bend. But what you can do is you can hide the tab and create a lock for the tab, like that. Okay. And then you bend it back on itself like this. Boom. And you're like, that's not very cylindrical. And you're right, it's not. But we use other things that we have in our toolkit to make it cylindrical. If you have a Crayola marker at home, that's a really good tool for this. Like, super good tool. There we go. It's kind of cylindrical. And now what we can do is we can add this on to our wheel. Let's see. Boom. And boom. Awesome. And these tabs here get bent straight down. Just like that. Awesome. And like that. Awesome. That's because we want to hide those, right? And that's our first wheel complete. Now, we just need to do 4 more. These are, again, built the same way, so we're going to go ahead and just rush to where we're already done all 4. Okay, I think that this is looking pretty good. All of our wheels now are complete, and that means we can start adding them on to our car. Now, it's very important that we make sure we're putting them on the proper place. So the bigger ones here, if you will, go on the back, and the smaller ones go on the front. So that's these ones right here. And these are secured with a nice bend. Now, unfortunately, these wheels are not going to be turning, which is too bad. But I'm sure they'll still look really cool. There we go. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Our wheels are attached, and our car is looking really good. But we need more parts. Okay, the cutters are away. Let's get started with the seats here. That's part 24. And now the non-engraved side here is where we want to pay our attentions to, right here. And what we're going to do is take these sides, and I'm going to use the long part of my tweezers here so I don't get any warped metal. And we're going to bend them pretty much straight on. There we go. And now what we're going to do, oops, I have a little bit of a bird there that we need to take care of. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to bend it over. But what I'm going to do is use one of my tools here to try to help me get the shape I want. Where's my mandrel at here? There it is. Okay, I'm going to use this one right here, and I'm going to roll it a little bit like that. And that should give me a decent shape. Now as I place this down like that, I bring my ears in, if you will, the ears of the seat. And there we go. Now you'll notice it might be a little bit bigger, but that's okay because we can just adjust it like that. And that looks really good. That's a nice seat. Let's grab our little bit of detail here that we add on. This is now part 25. And 25, of course, has an interesting little bends in it too. We're going to roll that piece there on the back of the mandrel. Okay. I'll give it a nice little rounded look. And the same thing with the bottom piece here. Let's get a little bigger. Okay, there's that little rounded piece I wanted. And same kind of thing like this. We're going to do that. Okay, now let's see if it fits inside of our little chair here. I think I did a really good job forming this chair. It went together pretty easily, and all the shapes seem to be almost dead on. I do need to bend that lower part there a little better, but we'll figure that out in a second. Bend these guys over. The reason why I'm doing that is you don't want to see that silver. You want to see that white side. That's going to help blend those tabs in. All right. Okay, there's our first little seat done. Now let's move on to our next one here. You've already seen how this one's formed, so let's go ahead and fast forward to where I already have it completed. All right, I think that is our seats in. Those look pretty nice, I think. But now it's time to move on to our back half of our DeLorean, which is part 26. Now, 26 here is formed kind of interestingly, and I'm going to again use my lovely little dapping set here to be able to help me get the shape that I want. I'm going to start with a bigger one and then work my way to a smaller size. That actually might be okay. Just going to make sure everything's bent there. Okay, excellent. Now, let's see if we can just attach it inside here, or if we need to go a little bit further. I think that's going to work out okay. All right. Now, let's move these little back pieces here straight down. Okay. And now we need our part 27. Same thing with 27 here. We want a little bit of a bend in it, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little bend. Nice little bend there. And that goes at the top, just like this. Bend these little side pieces up, and we can attach this onto our DeLorean. Or actually, we're bending these down, just like that. Okay. Same thing with the back here. Bending it down. Now we're going to attach this into our back here. Goes really easily in, though. That was not a pain in the butt at all. Right on. Now these are all secured with a bend, so just like before. Cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Now with those pieces all formed, we can move on to the actual outer shell of the DeLorean. I think that this is going to require a lot of interesting shapes. I don't think we're going to get it the first time right off the bat. So this is going to take several steps here. Now the first thing I'm going to do is grab this top piece right here. And you'll notice I'm going to take as much of my tweezers as possible, and I'm going to bend it. I'm going to do my very best to not warp the front of this car. It's very important not to do that. And it's hard to do, again, because you have so much thin metal here. Now, that's actually not a 90-degree bend, so I actually overbent that. I'm going to grab the smaller piece of metal, and I'm going to push out just a little. And then I'm going to grab this piece right here, and I'm going to bend it. But I'm going to bring it right to the fold line. There we go. Cool, 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 cool. And bend it down. Not all the way, just enough. Then we're gonna go here. Same kind of thing. I'm trying to match the bends the best I possibly can. And that's just to create a nice uniform shaping here. Some of them you have to kind of guess. Like, let's get real here. You can't, like, this lower piece here is really hard to kind of get a even shape on. You can do it, it's just hard. Good start to the shape I want. What we're going to do is we're going to have to form this more as we go. But right now, I like it. I like it. Let's add the hood of the car. This is part 28. Okay, this is the lovely engraved side here. Right down with the tabs, as close as you possibly can. That, very good. Okay, same thing with this hood. It's also done with bends, and I'm going to follow the instructions just because cars tend to have a lot of tabs that are very close together, and if you're not careful, you'll accidentally leave yourself in a position where you can't secure your tabs anymore. Not fun. Okay, there we go. All of our pieces have been added, and we have assembled a lot, but we still need more parts. There go the cutters, and we have all of our parts needed for the 5th page. Not a whole lot here, but I am sure that these little black pieces here, which is part 34 and 35, are going to give us a little bit of a headache. But we're still a little way from that. Let's start with part 30 right here, and that is a little tiny cylinder. And the best way to get a cylinder like this is with a mandrel right here. Now, I don't know if this is going to be small enough, but let's see here. Okay, just like that. Oh, come on now. I think it's well rounded, and we can make a nice little cylinder by pushing in just a little. Nothing too crazy. You don't want to accidentally bend it in half. There we go. Now let's take our steering wheel. The first thing we're going to do is attach it. This was a bad step. All right, let's move on to the next part here, which is going to be securing it to the kind of box. This is the box right here. What we want to do is make sure it goes in the long piece here. You might notice that you have to extend the top portion here in order for it to be able to reach, especially depending on how much you had to bend that cylinder. I really don't like this steering wheel. I don't know if it's the metal or what, but it's just not good. All right, there is the steering wheel column made with blinkers. Very cool. Now let's attach it onto our car here. Work it in a little bit. Might have to use some detail tweezers to get that side in. Okay, that steering wheel is in. What a pain in the butt. We still need to form the gear here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go right up to the front. Bend it up. Okay, our steering wheel is attached, and that little bit of detail is now bent up there. Let's move on to our next piece here. This is part 33, and it's bent kind of interestingly, actually. I think this goes like this, and then these kind of go down. This little box here comes around the back, and I think it forms with a little bend, just like that on either side. Okay, there we go. I like that. That looks really nice and formed. Now let's put this onto our car as well. Bend that just a little bit out of the way. Okay, nice and attached. Now we gotta bend this detail underneath. Let me see if I can do this. Kind of want to follow the dash. There we go. Excellent. How does that look? Very cool. Very cool indeed. Now we need to bend these tabs here back. Just like that. And we're going to bend this front down as well, but we're going to bend the sides first on either side. Whoops, not too much. Okay, bend this down. Very cool, very cool. All right, we're looking really good now. Let's move on to adding part 34 on. Now, these pieces I think will be very difficult. Just because they're small and we have to do a lot of unique shaping in order for them to be able to get into their places. Come up like this. As I've said before, when you're bending thinner pieces, it's better to grab the thinner piece and bend the other piece over it so you don't accidentally warp it. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but for the most part, you can get it done. Grab here. Awesome. There's our little piece kind of formed. Now this is going to go back a little bit, and I think this piece at the top is actually going to get right bent over. Okay. I think that is completely formed now. Let me see if I can work it into place. You know what? That wasn't actually too difficult. Not as difficult as I was expecting, but we gotta still secure it in place. And we still gotta make sure that it looks nice. So maybe I'm speaking a little too soon. Regardless, though, that does look really cool. The more this DeLorean is coming together, the more I'm actually really liking the look of it. Alright, that's our first side done. Now let's see if we can do this other piece here. Securing these sides up, the last one on the side. There we go. And that is the rough shape of our DeLorean. Looking really cool. Looking really cool. But now we need more parts. Okay, there we go. We have all of our parts needed for page 6 of our instructions. Now the first thing we're going to be doing here is taking part 36 and adding it onto the front of our car. Now I'm actually going to use a better set of tweezers to help me with this. These big flat ones are really nice for this kind of work. Grab the front. Now you can kind of see how we're going to start forming the front of our car here. You get a little bit of a reference off that piece. So I'm going to start just kind of giving suggestions of how the car should start to look. We're going to have to do some bending as we go, of course, but it's pretty good. Now we can grab part 37 here and add part 38 and 39. Okay, I think that's a good little shape. Now we can move on to actually attaching it onto our car. This might be a little bit difficult, and I'm going to wait to actually form these little vents back here until we have it completely attached onto the DeLorean. Okay, we're going to start with a windshield and work our way to the back. Okay, there's that little tab there. Working our way to the back of the little DeLorean here. Okay, that is our top piece all attached. Now I'm going to try to bend these little faders here, if I can, down just a little bit to try to give it that added little look. Being very careful with the paint job. You don't want to scratch it by accident. That would be no good for anybody. Okay, there we go. Excellent. With that all finished up, we can put that down now and start working on our bumper, which is part 40 right here. And the first thing we're going to do is actually bend these lights. So let's get that started by bending this forward. We're going to be making a silver box because all of that paint is going to be going on the inside. Simple, match up all the seams around the edges, just like so. Whoops. Dropping pieces again. There we go. cool. With those all done up, we can now grab our car here and making sure that we're attaching it to the non-engraved side. That's this side right here. We're going to attach the lights. There we go. Excellent. That looks really good. Now we can continue on with the actual forming of our piece. Just like this. And of course, we're going to bring the bottom up here. Now, one thing we're going to do is actually attach this piece into the back, which involves us forming it just to this little curve. So we're going to need this piece. I'm going to use my other tweezers here to help me. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to follow the best we possibly can the edges, and that should allow us to be able to get this tab in its place. Now, again, I'm using this part here to kind of help me form this out a little bit more. I recommend doing that anytime you secure your tabs. If you have some space, just kind of work the piece a little bit, see if you can get it better formed. We're going to bend this little grate down, if I can grab all of it. Whoops, I kind of warped it there. We're going to straighten that out right now. And use our inside of our tweezers to straighten it out. There we go. And this now goes on the front part of our DeLorean. Making sure that little grate here goes on the bottom. There we go. Got the one side in, top side. And now bringing that in. Boom! Awesome. Now let's just secure all these tabs into place. Very good. Look at that. That looks so cool. I'm going to have to bend these tabs down a little bit more here on the top, though. I don't want them looking like horns. Talk about taking away from the DeLorean, right? Okay, that looks really neat. I like that a lot. Now we need to add the back piece here. And we do this by forming it like that. Same with this side right here, just like this. And we bring the hood down. Wow, that's being a little bit hard. Time to maybe use the one and only time I'm probably going to use my needle nose pliers. This entire build is right now. That looks about right. I'm going to now take these little tweezers and bend these tabs like this. Alright, now let's add these into the back. I do think I still need to kind of form that tab, but we'll see in a moment here. I'm going to start by inserting the tabs at the top here, and then we're going to work them in the side. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and secure the ones on the inside that I already have secured first, and then we'll still worry about that last tab. That last tab I think is going to be a bit of a pain in my butt. There's that one. Alright, that's looking pretty good. And now we're just going to secure this little back area here. And the key to securing this correctly is just to make sure that everything is formed right. Now what I mean by that is you really want to make sure that when you're looking at your DeLorean that all of the angles are correct. And if you see a big gap somewhere, it means that something isn't shaped correctly and you need to go back and form it. You'll see right now as I put this tab into the insertion hole, if I can actually do that. Now what I'm going to do here is you can see this gap that's here. That means I need to bend some stuff. So if I bend and shape my pieces, you'll see that that gap actually starts to go away, just like that. And that's how we know that we've properly formed that area. And we also got the right angle we need to work with. Okay, that is everything connected. And now we're going to need more parts. Again, not that many parts, but everything we need for page 7. Let's get started with the wheel wells here. We're going to grab our main piece. And of course, what's very important to remember is keeping all of these pieces in order. They may look the same, but they are very different. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this little piece, and I'm actually going to bend this by my tweezers. And what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a little bit of a time and making sure that every piece of the metal gets bent. Now that is a good base shape. We're going to use the car now to actually give us the right shape. All right, let's do that 4 more times. And you want to keep this as smooth as possible. You don't want these to turn out badly, so just make sure you're being very careful with this step. Let's go ahead and add the other ones on. All right, that is our last wheel well on, and that looks pretty good. I think everything looks nice, especially with the finish. But now for the moment of truth. Can we actually get the DeLorean together? At least the top and bottom here. We still gotta do the doors, but let's see if we can get this together here. Okay, now I gotta figure out, I guess, this goes in like this. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Okay, that is our DeLorean right there, kind of assembled, looking really sharp. I really like how that came out, and we still gotta do the front here, which requires us to put on another piece. So let's do that right now. That's this guy right here. Now the non-engraved side goes on. Neat. That looks really cool. A little bit of extra detail really does add. And I don't want to accidentally break my wheels, but I do want them to be kind of lined up. All right. Looking really sharp. Everything is coming out really nicely here too. There's a little bit of spacing developing right here. We can fix that though, especially with bending and shaping. Okay. Looking really nice though. Let's continue on with the build by shaping part 48 here. And part 48 is shaped kind of uniquely. What we're going to do is we're going to just bend this little piece right here. Same thing with the other side, bending it over. Just like that. And now you're going to notice there's a little bit of a weird shape here. We're going to follow that up. And we're going to make that a uniform kind of look throughout the entire shaping, or throughout the entire part. It's just important to make sure you don't bend it too much. You really want to follow the shape of the edge the best you can. Okay, and that's that one piece formed. And now we get back over to this guy here, and again, making sure we're using the engraved side. We're going to bend everything down, just using those fold lines as our guide. Again, no gaps. It's very important here when we're bending these pieces. If you see any gaps, you need to bend your piece a little bit more. There we go. Excellent. Okay, with that done, we actually need more parts. All right, and there we go. We have all of our pieces needed to build the DeLorean, and we're only working on the doors. I'm going to do one, and once I finish that one, I'm going to fast forward to the second one to where we're actually attaching the doors onto the DeLorean. Okay, let's get started with part 51 over here, which is this guy right here. And what we're going to do is just do the same thing we did with the last couple of pieces, just match up those sides with the detail. Now, this has a lot of really tiny bits of detail on it, so just be sure that you don't accidentally warp the pieces as you shape. Now we got to add part 52 on, which is a little bit more interesting to shape, of course. This piece has to form up with this sidewall here. It's just because it's such a unique shape that you have to form it separately. I'm going to twist the bottom one here. And what that's going to allow me to do is form this piece correctly. Alright, I don't necessarily like the way that ended up. I could have done a lot better job forming this piece, and I think that once it's actually in place, I'll be able to play with it a little bit more. But for right now, we're going to leave it as it is, and we're going to go ahead and attach that piece we worked on earlier, which looks like a kind of a mirror. It's not, though. This is definitely the door. I want these to be nice. These are the iconic DeLorean doors. We need to serve them right here. Take your time. All right, now with that all tied up, we get to add it on to our major door here. Lots of layers, lots of layers. It's a good thing. Lots of cool detail too. Okay. Looking sweet, looking sweet. Looking pretty awesome. Now we gotta attach these onto the door. This is our door here, and we want to go to the non-engraved side. That's this side right here. What we're going to do is attach part 54, which is this guy right here, and we're going to ensure that we go to the engraved side, just like this, and then just like that. Okay, and now we're going to go to the little door here. Now, making sure that we're on the non-engraved side. This is the engraved side, this is the non-engraved side. We're going to put a little bit of detail in. And be very careful here not to accidentally scratch the metal. A little bit of a bend on each side. Just like that. And now we're going to add on our door that we just formed. This is nerve-wracking for me. Okay, that's my door. Looking pretty sexy, I think. Look at that. Awesome. Now we just need to make the mirror. Again, this is built kind of weird, so we're going to shape it a little bit beforehand and then kind of bend it into its shape. Okay, there we go. Our first door all complete. Now we need to work on our second door here, but I'm going to fast forward through that because it's the exact same thing. Okay, now that is all of our doors complete, and unfortunately I lost a bit of footage there of me putting on the first one, but essentially when it comes to putting the doors onto the DeLorean, you gotta make a choice. Do you want to have your doors open or closed? If you have your doors open like this, it looks a lot better and is how the model was intended to be built. If you choose to close your doors, you'll notice that they won't necessarily close that well. I would like to have one door open and one door closed in my DeLorean, but when I tried it, it really didn't look that good, so I'm going to go ahead and just install it the way it was supposed to, and maybe come back to it a little bit later and see how it looks. Put them in there. And now what I'm going to do is secure it using my tab bending tool. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to bend this down just a little bit more and make sure she's nice and flush. There we go. We have successfully built our DeLorean. Look at that. Awesome.